Okay, fellas, look, you guys continue to do brilliantly for me here at AFC Auckland, but these are our toughest two games of the season coming up, including our first New Zealand derby where we take on the Phoenix. Now, they're probably going to want to try and treat this as a friendly derby. Let's not let them do that. Let's take this game to them and we're going to stuff them after we try and do the same to Sydney FC. Focus on the first game, but please beat the Phoenix, please. I want to smash Chiefy.
Party in the streets and the city's on fire.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 5 of this New Zealand Builder Nation here on Shaun Does FM with AFC Auckland and the All Whites. And coming up today, probably the biggest episode so far of this series, especially in terms of our A-League club. We take on Sydney FC, top of the A-League at Mount Smart Stadium. They're only 3 points above us. A win here could get us into some Asian continental football qualification positions ahead of next season. And then our first New Zealand derby of the save as we take on the Wellington Phoenix at Sky Stadium. So if you're looking forward to those two games coming up in today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the new series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated, but pretty much just picking up where we left off at the end of yesterday's episode, where we took on two of the new teams in this A-League, in the Darwin Cyclones, and then we went away to take on the Redcliffe Waves. If you missed that one, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. A couple of players have returned from injuries since then, but we do still have a couple out, including a new injury there. As you can see, under our team news, Hassan Jallo out with concussion, so it does mean that Bazookas will be starting for us in these games coming up. In today's episode, Jallo out for 2 to 3 weeks with that concussion, which is a bit of a shame. We're just starting to find some form for us as our first choice striker, but it does mean that Gianni Bazookas, one of our former Wellington Olympic men, he can step in to that starting striker spot, and hopefully we can continue that good form that we have had pretty much ever since that loss to the Central Coast Mariners in our second ever game as a club. And also still out with injury, unfortunately, Winston Reid still has a damaged neck, out for 4 to 9 days. Does mean he might be a little bit iffy for both games in today's episode, including that big second one, our first New Zealand derby, where we do take on the Knicks away from home. But Mohamed Ahataran should be available for that game, should be back from some pulled ankle ligaments in time for that one, so might be someone who can feature against the Knicks in that second game of today's episode. But before then, we take on Sydney FC, currently on top of the A-League, albeit only 3 points above us. So when he could actually condense that top of the table quite a bit going in to our first New Zealand derby of the save. And that could be quite useful, because I've just noticed when I went to renew the contract of Winston Reid, the only player at the club whose contract was expiring at the end of this first season. He is going to extend that contract, thankfully, so 1 more year of Winston Reid. But I'll put up the screenshot I took while that contract negotiation was taking place, because there was a clause in there about qualifying for Asian continental football. So I do think that means that us here at AFC Auckland can actually play in Asian continental football if we do qualify for it, unlike the Wellington Phoenix usually in the base version of Football Manager. So that's quite nice if that is something that we can do in the save, and it looks like based on that contract negotiation, that is something that might be coming at some point later on in the save, potentially next season, if we can continue this good start we've had here at AFC Auckland so far. Just that 1 loss, 6 wins and 4 draws, and hopefully we can pick up some decent results here first up against Sydney FC. This one at Mount Smart Stadium, albeit probably our toughest test to date so far in the save, managed by the former Wellington Phoenix manager from last season in Ufuk Tele. That's definitely how you pronounce that name, not something else. And I've got some interesting players on their books. Do Sydney FC coming to this one off the back of an 8-1 demolition job of the Darwin Cyclones. But before then, they did lose to MacArthur, mixing their form just a little bit. They've lost 1 more game than us, but are on top, having picked up 2 more wins. But probably in terms of the team that they do have there at Sydney FC, the player who is the most recognisable would be the goalkeeper, the yellow wiggle, and Andrew Redmayne. Of course, there was a big deal made about that when he did his penalty save heroics in the World Cup playoff. So he's there at Sydney FC. Hopefully, don't have to deal with him from the penalty spot, wobbling around like an absolute goose, the 34-year-old Australian. But hopefully, we can get the better of him first up in today's episode when we take on Sydney FC at Mount Smart Stadium, but we'll come back shortly and hopefully continue our winning ways here at AFC Auckland and join Sydney FC on points as we take them on at Mount Smart. And here are the team sheets for this first game of today's episode. Probably the toughest one, you would argue, against top of the table Sydney FC. We come into it in decent form, just one change from that second game of yesterday's episode away at the Redcliffe Waves. Bazookas coming in for the concussed Jello. There are Sydney FC 4-4-2. Patrick Wood up front, actually having a very good season for those guys. Someone who's quite young, got my eye on him a little bit, depending on our transfer budget going in to next season, but he's probably the player to watch alongside Redmayne, but hopefully we can pick up a half-decent result here and keep pace with the league leaders. And it's taken until the 25-minute mark for the first highlight of this game. Pretty quiet so far, but this is a dangerous area for Mitch Oxborough to have a free kick so far. I don't think he's put one of these away, but this is right on the edge of the box, and with that left foot, Redmayne's giving him a lot of space there in that top left corner. He tries to put it away, gets a lot of help from the underside of the crossbar. It's his first goal for AFC Auckland. It's an absolute screamer, and Mitch Oxborough, he beats the red or yellow wiggle or where he is today, that big ugly bearded man in Andrew Redmayne. That is a wonderful free kick there, and we take a 1-0 lead, just shy of the half-hour mark, albeit shortly off the back of that, it is now Sydney FC who are on the attack. Max Burgess has that ball down that left-hand side, plays into the mix of the air, and Teo Atema on a yellow card does bring someone down. It's a penalty, and that's a bit frustrating off the back of a very good free kick from Oxborough. We've given Sydney FC here a chance to equalise pretty shortly off the back of that. Thankfully, Atema does not pick up a second yellow card, but it is here going to be Lolly who will try and put this one away. He sends Basilage the wrong way, and he puts it away in that top right corner. Joe Lolly, that's his third goal of the season, and unfortunately, not in front for long here at Mount Smart Stadium. That was a bit silly from Teo Atema, especially on a yellow card. Thankfully, is still on the pitch, but it's back to all square at 1-1. Only a couple of minutes shy now of half-time, and Sydney FC here are looking for a goal just before that, but thankfully poor pass. We get the ball here down our left-hand side. Neil starts to make his way forward these days, is starting over Lobo in quite good form. Good chance there for Jack Henry Sinclair, but unfortunately can't quite put that one away into the bottom right corner. Did have Redmayne beaten, but just off target. Very even game going into half-time. 1-1. Unfortunately, that penalty that we did give away has boosted the Sydney FC XG, and of course, they did tuck that one away through Joe Lolly, but thankfully, really good free kick before that from Mitch Oxborough. Does mean we go into halftime locked up at 1-1. Teo Atema on that yellow card and a 6.4. I think we're going to play things safe and take him off here for Nick Sullivan coming back from injury. He can get 45 minutes and try and work his way back into a starting spot, but I think at the moment, pretty happy with how this is going. Just that slight frustration having given away a penalty for Sydney FC to make it 1-1. And a very early highlight here in the second half. We try and make our way out from the back. It goes back to Adam Mitchell on a yellow card, of course, with no Winston Reid, still quite thin in our centre-back stocks, and especially with Teo Atema having left the field on that yellow card at halftime. But now Tormeen, nice ball there into the mixer for Stefan Malk. It somehow beats Andrew Redmayne at his near post, and that is a brilliant start to the second half. Gavin Tormeen can be a little bit streaky, can our French left winger, but he had lots of work to do here from around the halfway line, starts to make his way forward, and from just around the edge of the box, that's a lovely ball there for Malk. Redmayne gets a big old bit of body on that, but unfortunately for him, it can't keep it out, finds its way just inside that far post, and we're back in front early in the second half. And just making our way now past the hour mark, another free kick here to Mitch Oxborough. Tries to put that one in the bottom left corner, but this time Redmayne has to come up with a very good save to keep it 2-1 and keep Sydney FC in this game. And they now try and do something launching from the back. They pick out their mark down that right-hand side. Hopefully we can get through this highlight. Still at 2-1. Henry Sinclair at right wing is struggling. No Hataran on the bench, but we do have Toomey back who can cover that right wing. We'll see what happens here with Bratton. He unleashes a shot, but thankfully well off target despite the fact he had a bit of space there on the edge of the box. But I do think now we're going to make that sub with Henry Sinclair on that 6.4. Louis Toomey will give him some game time out on the right wing and see if he can help us hold on to this 2-1 advantage. And only a couple of minutes off the back of that previous substitution, now it's Mitch Oxborough, the goal scorer from that free kick, that wonderful one in the first half. He's down to red heart. Of course, we've already brought on both our defensive midfield options, but Negro can play there. so he'll come off the bench. We'll see if he's better suited to the DM role or the DLP. Doesn't look like it makes much difference, but you'd imagine that Negro might be better in that defensive role, usually playing as a right back. So we'll make that sub with just under 20 minutes left. And in fact, right as that happens, there's now a corner here to Sydney FC. We do try and clear our lines there, but they do still have this inside of the final third. Mark cuts inside looking for that top right corner. Good effort that one, but thankfully just wide of Basilage, and it beats the post as well. And we're still at 2-1 in front. And in fact, right off the back of that, a few more players are now down. 2 red hearts, 1 more stoppage, and 2 subs left. It's Tormeen and Neil who are down to red hearts. So I think we'll actually take off here Tormeen and bring on Lobo in his place. Then we might be able to switch him with Neil if we want to, albeit to be fair, Neil doing a decent job at left back. And also Rainiers will come on for a struggling Bazookas. That's all our subs used just inside now the last 15 minutes, and a corner here in our favour. Unfortunately, they deal with that there at the near post to Sydney FC, and Joe Lolly, the goal scorer for the opposition, gets that one back for them somehow. Our players not quite rushing back in defence, and now Goodwood Rake makes his way forward, plays that one in to Max Burgess. That's a bit of a sloppy goal to concede there on the counter-attack, having just hit a corner down the other end, and unfortunately that makes it 2-2 with just over 10 minutes left. As I said, frustrating, because I felt like there someone should have got to that ball before Joe Lolly, but unfortunately that was not the case. And then Burgess there tucks that one away into that bottom right corner. 2-2 late in this one at Mount Smart. And we're now inside the last 5 minutes of this game, still 2-2 off the back of that previous strike by Burgess, but now it's a free kick here in our favour with only 1 minute left in this game. If we could pick up 3 points from this one, that would be massive and might condense things at the top of the table. And Neil here finds himself in some space down that left-hand side. Tight angle. Good tackle that though from Adamson, but thankfully does keep the ball. Sullivan back out to Neil. Starts to make his way forward a little bit towards the byline. Floats that one far post. Louis Toomey with a header and gets a lot of help from the underside of the crossbar. Louis Toomey off of the bench as a right winger, which is definitely not his most natural position, but puts that one away. Off the back of that, we'll put our players onto some more defensive roles and also start to time waste a little bit to try and make sure here that we do hold on to this 3-2 advantage to get our guys to time waste, be more disciplined, and also get our goalkeeper to slow the pace down as well. And hopefully that will be enough here to make our way through injury time, but that could be a big goal from Louis Toomey. And we continue to show quite a bit of fight here this season, early stages at AFC Auckland, and hopefully that is the goal to make sure we pick up 3 points from this first one in today's episode, and that could give us a big confidence boost going into our first New Zealand derby. Toomey just gets enough on that to get past Redmayne, and it just finds its way over the line. There's 5 minutes here of added time. Sydney FC, to be fair, stats-wise, have definitely had the better of this game, but thankfully, same amount of shots on target. That is all that matters, and we've made the most of ours a little bit better than they have, and we pick up a 3-2 win. It was a very to and fro game, but thankfully that late goal, just as we were about to enter injury time there, to Louis Toomey does mean we pick up a 3-2 win, 1-1 at halftime with those set-piece goals. Early one to us in the second half. Bruce Stefan Malk set up nicely by Tormeen, but then Burgess grabbed one with 10 minutes to go. But that header from Toomey off of the bench is the big difference maker there. You can see the XG match story. Sydney FC can feel a bit hard done by that result, but thankfully 3 points for us there at Mount Smart Stadium, and that should set up a very interesting first New Zealand derby of the save, with AFC Auckland being quite a way above the Wellington Phoenix and coming into it having won 4 of their last 5 games. Hopefully we can back that up and continue our good form and get the better of the Knicks down in Wellington. We'll do a bus trip before we get into that game as well, but that does see us move into third on the A-League table, as you can see, now into a Confederation Cup qualifying race for Asian football for next season. But hopefully we can pick up another win when we come back shortly and take on the Knicks in the first New Zealand derby. So a very good win for us there. First up in today's episode, 3-2 over Sydney FC, and it does set things up nicely for us, hopefully, to assert our dominance in the first ever New Zealand derby in the A-League. We're going down to Sky Stadium in Wellington to take on currently just outside of a relegation playoff position, Wellington Phoenix. In real life, as I'm recording this, they're actually top of the league, albeit I think right now in real life they are playing the Melbourne Victory in a top of the table clash that could have changed, but certainly doing a lot worse in this situation than they are doing in real life, with first year manager in Giancarlo Italiano, aka Chiefy, but they do look very similar to how they are in real life. They come to this one having just suffered a defeat in the fourth round of the Australian Cup to a team in the NPL in Gungahlin United. Not too familiar with them, but that is a upset result. I think it is fair to say hopefully we can make the most of that. Also before then, a draw against Redcliffe. We beat them 4-1 second up in yesterday's episode, so hopefully this is a game we can be winning, albeit our first derby of the save. This one could have a bit of heat behind it, but hopefully on our form so far this season, we can pick up a decent result. But before then, an injury update, and thankfully it's a good one these days. Just Hassan Jallow out with that concussion, albeit some players coming back, only recommended to do so via the bench. But before we get stuck in to our first New Zealand derby, the save, it's time for a bus trip down in Wellington. And to be fair, this might be the shortest bus trip so far in this series that we're doing, because this hotel, very, very close to Sky Stadium. It was only built last year. Looks good enough for us here at AFC Auckland. 72 rooms. Looks quite tidy on the inside in the Seville Wellington Thorndon. So this is where we're staying, as you can see. Nice tidy rooms, lots of chairs, so I can do my pre-match planning and get the chili bins nicely stacked for that oh so short trip back to the hotel. To be fair, could probably just walk this one, but we're going to drive it and see what's happening in terms of around Sky Stadium down in Wellington. Here's the directions that we're taking. It's a little bit of a funny loop, this one, because there's a train track in between the stadium and our hotel, and we don't want to risk things and get run over before the game. That would be taking the derby just a little bit too seriously, so our bus trip's a little bit of a funny one. Apparently it takes 3 minutes. It's going to be a very short one. Not too sure how many stops we'll have on this trip, but this is our starting point. There's our apartment hotel where we are staying, which it looks like is right next to a car garage. There should be no issues if the bus does break down, but hopefully it will not with a 3-minute trip. And honestly, this might be the most interesting thing that we do in this 3-minute trip that we do have in between Sky Stadium and our hotel. Just down the road from the hotel, there's a cafe. Nice for the boys, even if we aren't actually going to be staying here for too long, with this being a trip within New Zealand. But there's a cafe the boys can have their coffee at. Also a light shop with a 40% off sale. That's not too bad. And across the road, a vehicle testing station, just reminding me I need to get my Warner Fitness done for my little Mazda Demio. But going forward now, and we'll see what else there is in this short trip over the railway tracks to Sky Stadium, and steadily making our way towards the turn where we go onto the road that actually takes us to Sky Stadium. And I think this is the main point on our trip to Sky Stadium. Indeed it is. There's a shopping mall in the Capital Gateway. Lots of shops in there like Bed Bath and Beyond. I saw some other stuff back there. It's a solid New Zealand shopping mall. In Wellington, there's lots of those, so we'll keep going past that. I think the guys don't need to do any shopping in enemy territory. Okay, now we're getting towards that left-hand turn that we do need to make. I believe this is Wellington Station. I think that might be a transit hub, not too sure to be fair, but that's Wellington Station. Now we get to make our left-hand turn, and we are about to be on that road, so we can head to Sky Stadium. And we are now on Waterloo Quay, which is the road we do need to make our way towards Sky Stadium on. This is probably more famous for overseas travellers. This is where all the ferries leave that go in between Wellington and Picton to join up the South Island and the North Island in terms of boats. So you can take your cars over through that way. First up Blue Bridge, and down the road a little bit further, as you can tell by that sign, the Inaugural. Those are the two big ferries that do operate here in New Zealand, either side of the Cook Strait. When the ferries are actually working, they're in a bit of bad nick at the moment, so the ferries not super reliable. But we'll keep going down here, and honestly, there might not be too much in between here and Sky Stadium. Doesn't look like a lot, just lots of space for those cars to get ready and the freight trucks to get ready for their trip across the Cook Strait to go down to the South Island where I reside in real life. We keep on going here down Waterloo Quay, and eventually, once we keep going down this road, some big building coming up on that right hand side. Just wondering what that actually is. Will it tell us? The Custom House. That might be another hotel. But there's a sign for Biavana. That sounds nice. Hopefully we'll get a bit of that after the game in the bus. But trying to go forward here, I'm not sure we can go forward anymore. There's the walking ramp that takes you to Sky Stadium, but I don't know if we can go forward anymore here with this Google Click map that I'm using, and indeed we can't. That must be too close to the dead end, but in the distance there you can see the slight shape of the stadium that is referred to here in New Zealand as the Cape Tin, these days known as Sky Stadium. That is where we're playing this game, this first New Zealand derby in the A-League, and we have now made our way to the stadium. There's been a bit of a sponsor change since these pictures were taken for Google, no longer Westpac, Sky TV instead, but here's what the stadium does look like. You can start to see why it's affectionately known as the Cape Tin, because it's big and round, and you could probably bake a cake in it of some description, but this is the Cape Tin. This is where the Wellington Phoenix play most of their home games, not all of them, especially while they were the only New Zealand team in the A-League, but I think from next year, most if not all of their games will be played here at Sky Stadium. We'll now try and find a way to get inside the ground and show you guys around. And this is the inside of Sky Stadium. Yet again, you can kind of see why it's got the Cape Tin nickname, because it is very, very round. More probably suited as a cricket ground, but at the moment it looks like it's set up in here for some Super Rugby union competition down here in New Zealand, as you can imagine, being arguably, I would say still probably the most popular sport in New Zealand. But this is what the Cape Tin does look like. Not quite the best shape of a ground for football or for rugby, but hopefully they'll put the goals up soon and we can keep our good run going in the first New Zealand derby of the save. And here are the team sheets for this first New Zealand derby in A-League history. There are the home team, the Wellington Phoenix. They are also going with a 4-4-2, just like Sydney FC did in that previous game. You'll also see in that team a few of the players that we have selected so far for our New Zealand All Whites team. We're the same as we were for that previous 3-2 win over Sydney, but a few players coming back on the bench, in particular Winston Reid and Mohamed Ahataran. We can use them if we need to, but hopefully pick up a decent result away in this first New Zealand derby. And very early highlight in this one, just 1 minute in, and there is a throw into the home team in the Knicks in the all yellow. Mackay's on the ball, plays that one back to Lucas Kelly-Hill, a player we've given a debut to for the senior All Whites, but Oscar Zavada flicks that one onto David Ball, somehow unmarked in the box. He puts that one home. Hopefully he was offside, has not beaten one of a couple of former Wellington Olympic players in our team there in Scott Busselage, and thankfully he was offside, but that is an early warning shot there from the Knicks. Zavada flicked that on, and thankfully just offside there was David Ball. We get away with one, still 0-all early. And just past the 15-minute mark, next highlight in this game, and finally we do have the ball a bit. As I say that, we do give it away there with a loose pass, and now Malk there a bit sloppy on the ball, and then thankfully Neil can get that one back for us. Now Tormeen, he starts to make his way forward, bazookas to Malk. Nice forward ball there to Tormeen, who will beat Alex Paulson, and we open the scoring in this first New Zealand derby in A-League history, and it's a goal to a Frenchman in Gavin Tormeen, our top goal scorer here at AFC Auckland so far, helped out by the fact he does take penalties sometimes. Bazookas plays that back to Malk, and somehow Tormeen just left wide open there, almost in behind of that Phoenix defence. Thankfully, he did stay onside, tucks that one away inside that bottom right corner. Thought the Bazookas might be able to play that one before he played it to Malk, but thankfully, good option. Tormeen just onside, tucks it away, and gives us a 1-0 lead, albeit right off the back of that. Now we're down the other end. Sheridan with a throw in here for the Knicks. Ben Old starts to cut and field, the former golf player. Good chance for him there, but that one comes off the underside of the crossbar, thankfully, at the moment. Just getting away with some defensive lapses here at AFC Auckland, and thankfully Neil can clear that one before Ben Old does get on the end of it, but the Phoenix are still in possession. Graham, he is on the ball, floats this one into the mixer. Thankfully, we clear that one away. We hold on at the moment to our 1-0 lead. And just short of the half-hour mark, there is a free kick here to the Phoenix inside of the final third, and Oscar Zavada this time does it himself with his head. The big, tall Polish striker will put that one away. Off the back of that, we're going to cancel so we don't praise our guys, instead we'll encourage. But Oscar Zavada puts that one away, and the Phoenix, to be fair, they've been threatening to do this so far. Just that one highlight in our favour, but that is a good far post hitter. He beats Busselage in goal and finds that bottom right corner. Makes it 1-all now. Down the other end, Oxborough with a free kick, scored a beauty in that previous game, getting past Andrew Redmayne. Unfortunately, that one just off target, still 1-all. But the highlights do continue here, and the Phoenix are back on the ball. Can they turn this around and make it 2-1 with about 10 minutes left in the first half? Ben Old makes his way down that right-hand side. He used to play golf. He picks out Zavada yet again. That's very iffy, though, from Busselage in goal. It's a terrible effort. Didn't hold on to the ball, just parried it back out and Oscar Zavada will score a quick brace, starts to bust out the dance moves there, having scored a double in the first New Zealand derby, and maybe we're going to bottle things here for our second defeat with AFC Auckland. That's really poor that from Basilage. Didn't look like the strongest hitter, but parries out and Zavada pumps that one home, albeit with a little bit of help from the underside of the crossbar. In the space of a few minutes, we go from having a 1-0 lead to being 2-1 down. And it looks like that's going to be it for the first half. Just 2 minutes here of added time to be fair. It's been quite an even game, this. But unfortunately, that little pitch that was there for the Phoenix around the half-hour mark, where Zavada scored a double, including that really poor effort from Basilage in goal for that second goal, does mean they go into the sheds 2-1 up, having cancelled out that early goal to Tormain. We're going to make the most of our experience here, bring on Winston Reid for Havaliers. He can go out to that right-hand side centre-back and partner up with his regular first-team starter and Adam Mitchell. Also, Jack Henry Sinclair, poor rating. Mohamed Ihataran coming back from injury as well can come on for him. Hopefully those two can just get us on the front foot a bit more here. So hopefully we can grab something from this game as we get the second half underway, 2-1 behind. And around about 10 minutes into the second half, the Phoenix there did look like they might be on the attack, but good slide tackle there does mean that Ihataran can get on the ball, plays that one forward to Stefan Malk. I think he's right up there as well this season in terms of our top goal scorer in behind Gweveen Tormain. But now we play that one back to Adam Mitchell on the ball. Takes his time before picking up Malk just outside the box. We'll try and put this one top right corner. Good chance there, found himself in a bit of space, but unfortunately that one goes well high and wide, and we're still 2-1 behind. And only a couple of minutes off the back of that chance to Stefan Malk. We're going to make some subs here, and I think it's going to be in defensive midfield. Oxborough just going fairly on a 6.5, and a Tamer's just picked up a yellow card. So Nick Sullivan and Louis Toomey can come on in the defensive midfield. And off the back of that, there is a potential highlight here for the Phoenix. Zavada, he gets brought down, and that might be all she wrote. Winston Reid coming off the bench gives away a penalty in the first New Zealand derby that looked pretty clear cut, and Oscar Zavada here, you'd imagine, will get a chance to complete his hat-trick from the penalty spot. In fact, it's not. It's Kraev who tries to put that one in the left-hand corner, but Basilage comes up with a big save that certainly makes up for his mistake late in the first half. Why, oh why, did Zavada not take that penalty? Because he earned it. Thankfully, looks like we deal with the danger off the back of that corner, but that is a big penalty save. Hopefully, that's a turning point. Now, Ihataran with a free kick forces a good save there out of Alex Paulson. Looks like he's taking those now that Oxborough is off the field, but hopefully a chance for us here from this corner to make it 2-2 with still 20 or so minutes left in this one. Paulson comes searching for that as we try and find Winston Reid, but unfortunately the Phoenix deal with that danger, and it's still 2-1 to the Knicks, but certainly could be a lot worse with that penalty save from Basilage. And just about to make our way into the last 20 minutes of this game at the 69-minute mark. Nice time for us here to make our last substitution. Looking at the options on the bench, I think the best one here might be left back, trying to inject some fresh legs down that left-hand side, bring on what was our usual starter before he got tired on Olympic qualifying duty coming into the start of yesterday's episode. So Nathan Lobo can come on for Neil. That's all our subs used. Still 2-1 down with about 15 minutes left. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like that sub's done too much so far. About to enter the last 10 minutes of this game. I think it's time for us now to go attacking and put our wingbacks on to attack, and also go a bit wider in terms of the attack as well, up our tempo, and we'll see if that can help us turn this around and make sure we don't lose this first New Zealand derby. And very shortly off the back, going a bit more attacking with our player roles and also our mentality. We do have a throw in here inside of the final third. Malk there on an orange injury picks out the former Wellington Phoenix player in Callan Elliott. He scores his first goal for AFC Auckland. Of course, it's against his former team. Off the back of that, we might just drop back to positive, and also we might just get those wing backs to go back to support just to make sure we do grab something out of this game. But that is a big goal, at least. Hopefully that will make sure that we don't suffer a defeat in this first New Zealand derby. But that is a big goal, especially off the back of that earlier penalty, which thankfully Basilage did save. But Callan Elliott puts that one away past Paulson, the former Phoenix player, bites the hand that used to feed him, and makes it 2-2 with 10 minutes left. And about to enter injury time in this game, and I think it's now time for us to actually go back and try and win this game. Hopefully the momentum might be on our side. I'll stop chickening out and try and actually pick up a decent result from this game. The wingbacks, they can go back onto attack, and also we will go back to an attacking mentality a corner here. We float that one near post. Creative, though, will clear that one, but thankfully back there for us, it is the goal scorer and Callan Elliott. Now Nathan Lobo off the bench starts to make his way forward down that left-hand side far post there for Mohamed Ahataran. His second goal of the game, some bench impact. 2 late goals for us here at AFC Auckland, and deep in injury time, that might be the goal that pinches all 3 points here from the Wellington Phoenix and might actually put them in a bit of danger of being in the relegation zone off the back of this game, at least in terms of a relegation playoff. Don't actually want that. Would be quite useful to keep both New Zealand teams in the A-League for as long as possible in this save, but that is a huge double late from us. We should have stuck to attacking throughout those whole last 10 minutes because maybe would have done it a little bit sooner, but that is a big late impact from some of our bench players in this game. This time, Nathan Lobo down that left-hand side, floats that one far post, and Mohamed Ahataran heads that into the ground. It beats Alex Paulson, and with only 2 minutes left of added time, we are now 3-2 in front. To be fair, stats-wise, you could argue we actually deserve it, especially when you consider the Phoenix. That XG got bumped up through that penalty, but that is a big late comeback from us here at AFC Auckland. We win the first New Zealand derby of the save away from home as well. That is quite a big result, especially being 2-1 down with around about 15 minutes left in that game, but thankfully late goals to both Callan Elliott, the former Phoenix player, and also Mohamed Ahataran does mean we pick up a 3-2 win, and that does make sure we're going to still be near the top of the A-League come the end of this round, but that is a big result. We win the first New Zealand derby of the save. We left it late, but get the job done, 3-2. So 2 very good, albeit narrow victories during the course of today's episode, especially that second one, a win in the first New Zealand derby of the save, having left it late with those goals to Callan Elliott and Mohamed Ahataran. It does mean we are keeping pace with Sydney FC for that last Asian qualifying spot for next season. They're above us because of goal differential. Western Sydney Wanderers and the Central Coast Mariners, they made the most of our win over Sydney FC on that first match week, but certainly right up there, you could argue, in a title fight. We'll see how long that does last, but certainly getting up to the halfway point of this season, we are in a very good spot. 15 points clear now of the Wellington Phoenix. You'd like to think we're in no danger of being relegated in this first season of the save, and hopefully, as I said, might find a way to either push for the title. That would be definitely unexpected, but hopefully, at the very least in the position we find ourselves coming up to the halfway point of the season, can try and push for some continental football for the second season of this save. And also, there's an international window coming up off the back of this. I have arranged some friendlies for the national team. Like I said, I think off the back of the results that we did have going into yesterday's episode, those poor ones against Algeria and Uzbekistan, might need to start scheduling these myself so the games are a bit more suitable against teams in and around us on the world rankings. So that's what we've done. First up, we're going to be taking on El Salvador, that one down at Forsyth Bar Stadium in Dunedin, probably the best stadium in New Zealand. They're equal 77th, so not the easiest task, but they're the team that was closest to us, above us, who did want to come down here and play us. So we'll see if we can do something there against El Salvador, but hopefully we should be winning our game off the back of that backup at Mount Smart as we take on Guatemala. They are below us and 117th on the world rankings, so hopefully a chance for us there to pick up our first win. As New Zealand manager, we'll recap those results before we come back for the episode at the start of next week, which will be another one with AFC Auckland, hopefully still near the top of the A-League. But if you enjoyed today's episode, those 2 big games, including that first New Zealand derby, that 3-2 win over the Nixon, do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. I think we'll come back in early December off the back of this international break and a home game where we take on the Perth Glory, because I can see there in that top right corner at the start of December we take on the 2 teams currently first and second in the A-League. First up, we take on the Western Sydney Wanderers, that one at Mount Smart Stadium, and then probably the bus trip I'm looking forward to most in this series. It's a rematch with the Central Coast Mariners, so far the only team to have beaten us this season. Their stadium has some giant inflatable tomato sauce bottles and mustard bottles. So we've got to come back for that peak content, a bus trip at the start of next week, and also see if we're going to look to do anything in terms of the January transfer window, albeit not too sure how much wage budget we will have left by that stage. We'll come back at the start of next week and take on first and second on the A-League and Western Sydney Wanderers and the Central Coast Mariners. So until then, thank you very much for watching, keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.